like a Hellcat.
Hello and welcome back to the channel where once again it's time for another Sega Saturn review, and today we have got yet another fighting game. It's a 2D fighter today, and that game is known as Galaxy Fight. Galaxy Fight is a 2D fighter that came out in July of 1996 for the Saturn. It's a conversion of an arcade game made by Sunsoft, which came out at the start of 1995. And the story is that once every 1,000 years, a god comes, and his name is Feldenkrais. Apart from he is evil, he is obviously a maniac, basically, and fighters from all the different galaxies have come together to try and stop him. That is pretty much the shorthand version of the story. So it's your job to pick your fighter, blast through each of the rounds, and eventually defeat him. So once the main menu is here, you'll see we've got Game Start, VS Mode, Special Command Mode, and Options. Heading into Options, we can select the difficulty. We can choose whether we want the L or R buttons to be included as dash buttons, which is useful for when you're playing the game. You can test all the different music tracks, and you can choose whether you want mono or stereo audio. Back on the main menu, and you can head into Special Command Mode, where you can allocate two special moves to the X and Y button, which is useful, but you have to take into account not all of these commands work for every character, so you might want to change it before you pick a character to play as, but it is quite useful. So heading into the one player mode, looking at the characters, we've got Rolf Kazuma, Rumi, Musafar. On one side we can scroll over and we've got Jury, we've got Gidone, we've got Alvin, and we've got Gunter as the 8 selectable characters. So before each battle, it'll tell you what planet you're going to and a few details about the planet before you go on to face the character. You get the loading screen showing you which character you're going to face, and then like most 2D fighters of the time, you get a little bit of dialogue from that character before you battle them. So for the benefit of anybody who's new to the channel, what I do is I take a look at the way the game looks, the way it sounds, the way it plays, what kind of lifespan it's going to give you, and whether it is worth playing today, and makes our top 10 list. Now heading on to the graphics section for Galaxy Fight, this game is a bit of a disappointment. As soon as I started playing it, I got this Mega Drive feel to the visuals. I didn't really feel there was anything that suggested this needed to be on the Sega Saturn, the new console at the time. The characters look very Mega Drive snazzy in terms of the quality of the visuals and the stages. There's nothing there that pops out that makes you think this game looks impressive. The animations, again, are pretty similar to what you'd expect on a Mega Drive fighting game, in my opinion. It's really difficult to draw any particular praise to the way the game looks or runs. The only thing I might say is that it's got some slight zooming in and out, something that you probably wouldn't have got in the previous generation, but that, in terms of the visuals, is really as strong as it gets. It doesn't mean the game looks terrible, it just means the characters don't stand out enough, they're not unique enough, they've not got enough detail, in my opinion. The sprites perhaps could be a little bit bigger as well, I feel. It just doesn't have that 32-bit feel to the visuals. Before I talk about the sound, I want to say one thing, that Nintendo must have stolen the idea for Cat Power Mario for Super Mario 3D World from this game. The character Rumi is exactly like Mario is when he's got the cat powers. I couldn't believe when I played the game. They must have stolen that from here. But anyway, talking about the sounds, and it's sort of like not too bad in terms of the sound effects, not too bad in terms of the music tracks. In fact, the music tracks are probably the highlight of the game. Obviously, you've got CD quality audio now, which is much better than what you would have got on the Mega Drive. And the tracks are actually quite varied depending on the different locations that you're fighting in. The music tracks all fit those, which is really good because it gives you some variety to go with the different stages as well. And I think that's really good. Sound effects are nothing to write home about. They are pretty much the bog standard kind of sounds for your hits and your special moves. Nothing too special there. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to play you a few tracks like I tend to do, and you can decide what you think of the music yourself. So moving on to the way the game plays, and it's got a slightly unique control system. Like I've said before, L and R can be used to dash, the D-pad moves you, A, B and C do your light, medium and strong attacks, Z is a taunt button, and X and Y can have special moves mapped to them. It sounds okay and it plays okay in general, but for me the way it plays is also its biggest flaw because it doesn't stand out from any other fighters around the time, and I don't think it plays as well as something like Street Fighter, where we've got the punch moves and the kick moves, so you've got a 6-button interface. This really only has a 3-button interface, and I don't find it plays as well just in general. It's not slow really, it's not unresponsive, but it just doesn't stand out in terms of the way it plays. You can't increase the speed of the gameplay or anything like that. It's just set how it is as well, and I do feel it can be a little bit slow occasionally, especially sometimes jumping around. I don't quite feel it's up there in terms of other 2D fighters on the system, and we've looked at a few. We've looked at X-Men Children of the Atom, we've looked at Street Fighter Alpha 1 and 2, we've looked at Golden Axe the Duel, and I feel all of those 2D fighters play better than this game, and they're more enjoyable to play. And for me, how enjoyable a fighting game is to play is the biggest reason to play it, and Galaxy Fight just doesn't do enough in the gameplay department. All the characters have got special moves, that's fine, nothing wrong with that, and they all you know, similar combinations to pull them off as it would be in Street Fighter or Golden Axe or anything like that. Really, really similar. I just don't feel it quite brings it all together as well as other 2D fighting games that we've looked at so far. So in terms of gameplay, it's not particularly strong. So, of course, now we need to talk about what kind of lifespan you can expect to get from Galaxy Fight, and unfortunately, the answer is not much, because there is very little content here. It's bare bones minimum, really similar to Golden Axe the Duel, actually. It's got a simple one-player mode and a VS mode. That is it. You play through the one-player mode with each character and see their little animated ending sequence, and that is it. There are 4 additional characters to play as, but that is it in terms of content. There's very, very little. Once you've seen the ending for your character, there's not really any incentive to come back and play it again. For me, there's no incentive to put it on a harder difficulty, because this game's actually pretty difficult, even on very easy. You will find the computer slinging together all their special moves to annihilate you sometimes. Other times you'll be able to beat them, but I feel it's too difficult as it on the whole, and so that kind of kills your enjoyment. If you put a game on very easy, you should be able to blast through it pretty quickly, even if you're 5 or 6 years old, because you're just playing through it to enjoy it. It's too difficult for me on the lower difficulty settings, which really kind of kills it for younger people. They're not going to want to play it. Someone like myself, I've got a bit more determination, I can put myself through it, but there's no desire to turn those difficulty levels really high to try and win on those, because there's nothing in it for you. So ultimately, its lifespan is its biggest downfall, as it just simply isn't good enough. Now that leaves us with our 2 final questions. Is Galaxy Fight worth playing today, and does it make it into our Saturn top 10? Unfortunately, there is absolutely nothing unique about Galaxy Fight that makes it stand out amongst all the other 2D fighters that you could play on the Saturn, and there's really no reason, no incentive to play this game whatsoever. If you want a physical copy of it, it's £65 at CEX when they have it in stock, so it's an expensive game as well, and it simply isn't worth it. There's not really anything that I can say about this game that suggests you should go out and play it, which means, does it get into our current top 10? There's our current top 10 going up the screen now. Unfortunately, Galaxy Fight doesn't get in there. It doesn't get anywhere close. It's a lot better than last week's game, Courier Crisis, but overall it just simply doesn't have enough unique features and enough lifespan and enough gameplay, new gameplay elements, I guess, to put it in that top 10. Has anybody out there played Galaxy Fight? I don't know a single person that has ever even played this game, let alone just even heard of it, to be honest. So be interested to know if anybody has, and if they perhaps rate it differently to myself and my overly critical of some of my reviews. Maybe some people think I am, but let me know down below with a comment, and as always, I shall be back soon with another Sat review. Goodbye for now.